and we've got a lot to get through tonight, all right?
On you go, Kevin.
Oh no, there's Tracy there.
Yeah, then. Right, just before we start, Ruth, if you want to do the first two comps, and then we'll have a break, all right, after the second one you've done. Okay?
That would be fantastic, yeah.
Right, okay. Right, I'll start off the evening then. So just to let you know, next week, the 11th of November, is a post-comp review of tonight's images. So that we'll go through those images next Wednesday. The Wednesday after, which is November the 18th, is a members presentation by Pete Haywood. Looking forward to that one, Pete. But it is also the handing for the competition C5 and C6 prints. Considering that there are COVID restrictions, please arrange delivery of your prints to Tracy Ross, who is the competition secretary, well in advance. Okay. If there's any change because of this COVID, we'll let you know as soon as. Okay. You haven't heard anything more, Alan, have you?
No, I haven't. No.
Right. Okay.
Well, nothing for everybody's ears anyway.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. Right, on to tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, welcome. It's nice to see you all. Tonight is competition 2, 3 and 4, PDI, set subjects, and our judge tonight is Ruth Hayton. Ruth started out in photography at the tender age of 18 to record her travels, and has not put a camera down since then. She's been taking pictures throughout her life, and Ruth likes taking subjects mostly of wildlife and landscapes. Ruth currently is the vice president of Air Photographic Society, but Ruth's first club was, of course, Irving Camera Club, when it was based at the Harbour Arts Centre many years ago. So Ruth has recently been awarded the CPAGB and has been fortunate enough to have some of her salon acceptances. Also having 3 images shortlisted in the landscape photography of the year competition. Now I know how hard that is to get into that, Ruth, so I've tried myself, so congratulations on that one.
I was really surprised, if I'm being honest, to get 3.
Yeah, you're very, it's very well attended. So there's no pressure there, Ruth.
I'm worried now because this is a landscape competition.
Right, so on to tonight. I'm going to hand you over to Ruth and to Tracy, who are going to run the rest of the night. And thank you very much, ladies and gents.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, well, Alan is ready for screen sharing.
All right, so I have to click this button and then.
Right, well, while Alan's doing that, will I just give us a wee bit of detail on how I work? I'm aiming to give constructive feedback on how I think your images could maybe be improved and what I like about your images. I'm not trying to be destructive or anything like that, although I'm going to be one of these judges you're going to talk about, because every single person is going to come back and go, oh my goodness, she's obsessed about white borders. And problem with a white border is that they'll draw your eye away from the image, and I'll maybe go into this a wee bit more. But these are my views, and as you know, judges have different views about things. And I'll give you a little example. I took a landscape in Harris a couple of years ago, which I was really pleased with, and came rushing back, put it in the first open competition, and the judge said, it's all right landscape, it's barely adequate, and gave it a 15. So, okay, maybe I'm not very good at landscapes, I'll just stay with the wildlife and give up. I got talked in to putting it into the annual. It won the overall best image in the annual. It got salon acceptances, and it got shortlisted for Landscape Photographer of the Year. So if you've got something that the judge you think's been very unfair, try it in your annual competition or in a salon or something and see how it does, because sometimes it's just a matter of personal taste. So now to business, once I work out how to turn my iPad round. Okay, what is raised in Scotland? I had a right good laugh at this one. The title says it all. Oh, by the way, if I'm running behind time, tell me to speed up. It's a fun image. I laughed when I saw it, and it really, really suits the mono. It's a shame for me he wasn't looking directly at the camera. What I would suggest to make changes is maybe slightly darken. So I've got to stop waving my hands about to point at things on the screen. Slightly darken the face and the hand, which are light, and draws your eye a little bit too much. And if you evened out the tones a bit, it would be a slightly better image. Now, I appreciate this might be my monitor, and when the author looks at it, think, no, they're not blown, but just try it. Okay, Alan, next one.
Okay. Just let me get the technology. We got it now. Okay.
That's okay. Okay, Trois Honest Men. I thought this was a great shot with great capture, and I absolutely loved the expressions, particularly the chap with a hand on his face. Whatever they were saying was clearly quite naughty, and I would like to have heard. For me, the image is rather too contrasty. I don't know if that was the author's intent or not. And the figures do seem to have a white line round them, which slightly detracts from them. The other thing I would think would be if you crop in to behind the second person, it would give it more immediacy because it kind of bleeds out the side a bit, because your focus is all on the left and there's nothing really on the right. Okay. Now, Pavel. I thought this is an absolutely lovely portrait. Really great shot. It was sensitively handled, very well processed, and for a street photograph, really importantly, great engagement with the subject. Too often you see them and they've been photographed and the persons are hostile, and I think this is much, much better. What I would do is darken down the light patch at the, where have I said, top right hand side. Right, in my notes it says top right hand side, but it is actually top left hand side. Lesser known fact about Ruth's is that I have difficulty with left and right, and in the car it's turned to my side or your side. So when you're looking at that in the notes, the author, it is actually the light patch at the left hand side that needs toned down. I would also clone out the highlight on the glass behind him. But that was an absolutely excellent image, and I gave that a commended. Okay, hopefully not damage society. Well, these ladies are posing nicely for the camera, and there's good engagement with subjects and lots of different expressions. My eye is drawn to the bag, and that's just something to be aware of, that any time you're writing in it, your brain's hardwired to check to read the writing, or at least mine is. If anything, for my taste, there is slightly too many of the girls, because you got great engagement between the two girls at the right hand side and the author. I would have liked to have seen a little more of that. I think the mono works well, and it's been very well processed because of a whole range of tones, and that was a nice image. Okay, Alan, next please. Thank you very much. We might have to stop temporarily while I sort out this iPad. Right, drag racer. Interesting take on a street scene. Hold on till I pass it to my assistant. You just need to move it on to the next page. Bear with me. I'm a technophobe. Right, it's been well exposed, beautifully exposed. And I think there's a very good use of negative space for the chap in the bicycle to go into. Lose that border, guys, please. It detracts from the image and causes your eye to bleed out to the edges. If I'm being really fussy, which I would be, I would suggest the lady with a hijab just on the pavement, could you darken down the hijab a little, because your eye's drawn to the light point on it as well, and it slightly away from the subject. But that was a very nice one, and I liked that. Okay, next one, please. Thank you very much. Okay, I had a wee smile when I saw this. I thought this was a really different take on street photography. I liked the diagonal shape on it, of the row of buildings. It was very nice. It gives more dynamic feel than the straight-on shot, and gives you sort of recession of perspective for the buildings. It was well seen. To me, it's a tad light, and I would take it down a third of a stop. And I would certainly darken the road a bit, because your eye's drawn to the light patches, and there's a very prominent light patch on the left-hand side. I'm just glad that the author of this one didn't see what is, if this is lust, which I suspect it might be, didn't see the problem. Apparently they have hordes of youths who moon at tourists and people taking photographs. So I was very glad that didn't appear in the street scene of lust.
Okay.
Right, the next Penny for your thoughts. Nope, not that one. Hold on, bear with me. Abandoned Street. I do like this one. I feel it's a very strong feeling of atmosphere, and that has something to do perhaps with the way it's been processed. I feel that the photographer adds scale to the abandoned, or it is an abandoned street, isn't it? Yes, to the abandoned street, and a little bit of human interest. What I would say is the van in the lower left-hand corner seriously detracts from the image. I would crop that out, and that has the advantage of putting the tree not quite so centrally. So I think that would improve the image. Okay, next one, please, if you don't mind, Alan, is Jumping Jack Flash. I thought this one was very well spotted, and there's certainly a lot of street life going on in this image. An awful lot of street life going on in the image, and it's quite a busy image. I think the capture and the timing of the man jumping off the scooter is really well caught. What I would suggest doing is cropping it from the right hand side and off the bottom to take in more to what is clearly your subject of the three figures. And I would certainly lose that geometric pattern bit at the front a little, bring it up, because it is quite distracting and draws your eye away from the subject. Now, I appreciate there's not a lot you can do about the pavement, but it is distracting, so I would minimise the amount of it you showed. Okay, next one. Right, you know the words white and border is coming into play in this. So yes, lose the white border. This is putting me to shame a bit, because a Santa dash goes past my office, albeit on a Saturday, and I shouldn't be in my office on a Saturday. If that's a Glasgow one, that is. I thought this was an absolutely fabulous image. I loved the woman's expression, and the colours have been sensitively handled so they don't pop out too much and take away from that. The depth of field is excellent. I thought long and hard about whether the out of figure, out of focus figure on the left-hand side detracts. And I think if you try and crop her out, it's going to make your subject too close in the frame. So I think it's been sensitively handled by toning down the back.
Okay.
It's good exposure. The only suggestion I would do is darken down the hand a wee bit, because your eye's drawn to the light hand. And just before we move on to the next one, oops, I gave this a highly commended. Okay, next one, thank you very much. Into a Puddle. I did like this one. I thought it was very well seen. The processing is excellent. The range of tones is excellent. And it really suits the mono treatment. I think that's a really good mono. Now, this might be intentional on the author's behalf, but for me, the cyclist just isn't totally sharp. It might be what the author intended, but from an outsider looking in, it looks unsharp to me, and that detracts a little. And it's such a shame, because if this had been sharp, it would certainly have got a placing. What I would also suggest is to crop it down at the side of the church or the buildings to bring it a bit more into focus and not have him quite so central. Okay, thank you very much, Alan. Vespa Quattro. I think this is a fantastic travel shot. I really do. I love the engagement with the middle two people on the bike. It's eye contact without being hostile eye contact, which so many, particularly of Asian travel photographs, tend to be. It shows the place as it is rather than a set-up shot. If it's a set-up shot, it's been very well done. But can we lose the white border of doom? I'm not ignoring you lot, I'm trying to read my notes. The only suggestions I would make on the processing front is to tone down the highlights on the white highlights on the bike, just so that you don't take away the impact from the expressions on the people's faces and the human interest. I think that's a really, really nice shot. Okay, thank you very much, Alan. Next one. This one's called The End. I love this one. I'm a total drama queen and I like mean and moody. And this is a moody image of the desolation of these buildings. I like the out of focus window, which draws your eye through to the buildings on the center of the frame. And it just also, all the texture in the buildings gives you an idea of the desolation of it, and it's kind of rough and shabby looking, so it's good. It's what you want to do to catch a judge's attention is have immediate impact, and for me, despite the fact I don't really do much desolation, this has immediate impact. It's been well processed. What I would say is, to the left hand side there is a white band of what looks like rough cast. I'd suggest toning it down a little bit, purely and simply because your eye stops at light, and if you tone that down, your eye is immediately drawn through to the buildings at the centre. I liked that one a lot and I gave it a commended. So well done to the author for that. Right, that one's called I, Me, Okay, and every time I look at that person's face I have a wee laugh. It's been very, very well seen, and I love the expression on the person's face, and I liked her walking behind with her head up, nose in the air, as if to say, I'm walking past that. My real concern about this image is the human interest is fantastic. I'd have liked to have seen it larger in the frame, because my eye is drawn away from the people to the Stewart's Amusement Arcade sign. But if you can crop into that, that would be a fantastic image, and it's certainly been very well seen. Okay, now can we move on, thanks Alan, to Little Monster? Yeah, I think that's a very good title for this one actually. I did not have purple here. Purple flash. Sorry, we have a domestic. Purple flashlight. I think this is a fabulous image. I think she's full of attitude. The position of the hands, the cigarette, the smoke coming out the mouth is excellent for a sort of gritty street image. What I particularly like is I love the direct eye contact that the photographer has with the subject. What I would maybe minor comments here, I would maybe lighten the right hand eye very slightly because it's slightly dark, and my fussy control freakness is coming out to play, but there's writing on the step and on the shop at the back, and if you could crop that out it would be less of a distraction. But I really liked that one, and it got a highly commended. So well done to the author for that. Okay. I was looking at these after a very hard day at work. So I had this one made me laugh as well. Though I did imagine what I would like an alien to take certain people in my office away that won't do what they're told. So it's really well seen. I really liked it. It's well processed. There's not a lot you can do about the barriers cutting the feet off. So that's something with street photography you sometimes just have to live with. There's a couple of wee minor things I would suggest. There's graffiti on the right hand side in a swirl. Try cloning it out and see what it's like. It might leave it too empty, but I think it might give them some space to walk into. They kind of stop by that. And behind the "To Let" sign, there is some white boarding. Just try and tone it down a wee bit more on the boarding behind the "To Let" sign. And I think that would allow more focus to come back on the subject. But that was very nice, and I gave that a commended.
Okay.
Okay, wait till I fight with my Street Warrior, this one's called. Not to put too fine a point on it, I wouldn't pick a fight with him for all the tea in China. It's a really nice image. I'm not ignoring you guys, by the way, I'm reading my notes. I think it's a cracking portrait, a really cracking portrait. It's well exposed, it's well composed. There's a good range of tones. It's slightly dark at the back, but that doesn't bother me because I kind of like the dark backgrounds in the mono anyway. Although a lot of judges will say, oh no, the background's too black. So bear in mind that it could be a Marmite shot. The only suggestions I'd make on this one are there's a very light bit at the top right hand corner. Maybe try and tone it down a bit, and maybe just put a brush on the face where the highlights are, over the nose and here, and maybe just pull the highlights down very slightly because it's slightly too bright and distracting. But I like that one, and that also got commended. You made life really difficult for me, you lot, because there's some really good images in this. Sorry, I'm needing caffeinated now. This one was called Harley. Yep, large chap in a Harley Davidson. I thought the mono was very well processed, and I kind of liked the snooty expression of the out of focus guy in the background. You could almost see, although he's soft because he's out of focus, that he's got a pinched, disapproving expression in his face. I would like more space for the motorbike to go into. I know he's stopped and his foot's on the ground and all that, but you want to give an idea of space. Never underestimate the power of negative space. If it's wildlife or cars or people running or doing things, give them space to move into. Not too much, but a bit of space, and that might improve your image. And it certainly, in my opinion, would have improved this, and I would have toned down the highlights on the Harley a bit as well. What have I done? Hold on, bear with me. Right, I'm back. Okay, thank you very much, Anne. Cycle of life. I'm going to have to go back to the old-fashioned way and write out my notes by hand because I'm having problems fighting with Lorna's iPad. Okay, I thought the title was really fun. Cycle of life. And I like the fact you've got eye contact with the subject. What I would consider doing is taking the sky's quite heavy and dramatic. I'd take maybe a little off it, so you can't see, it's not my screen, to maybe just above the trees. And I would certainly consider doing it a mono because the colours on the bike and clothing, in my opinion, clash. But then I'm a girl that likes blacks, greys and navies, so clashing colours are not my thing. But try it and see what it's like. And if you don't like it, that's fine. But I would seriously consider making her mono. There we go. Next one, please, if you don't mind, Alan.
Okay.
Yeah. If you work in Glasgow like I normally do, you come across people like this all the time. He's a typical Glasgow worthy. And working from home, believe you me, I don't miss people like that. It's very well spotted. Although, if I'm being honest, I think he could have been doing cartwheels in front of him and he wouldn't have noticed because he's in a world of his own. It's nice mono. It's well handled and very well processed. The only things I would say is it's a shame we weren't seeing him straight on. There's a couple of the bystanders on the seats are bisected. Again, I toned down the writing on the bus and on Greg's, just darken it down a wee bit because your eye draws. But I thought that was a really good street scene and I gave him a commended. You know what I like about you guys' submission, if I'm being honest, is too often people only give you, or you only see mono street photography, and it's really nice to see some colour street photography. I think this is a really nice image. It appeals to me, my obsessive compulsive nature, that you've got two blues on either end, but I'm going to make some suggestions about that. To me, the jogger's in the right place. His foot isn't falling out of one of the coloured boxes, so to speak. It's a nice position he's in. He could have done with a wee bit more muscles, but that's just a personal point of view. Sorry, I have to behave apparently. What I would suggest, although personally I like the two blues, I think it would be a stronger picture if you took the left-hand blue hat out, because that would put him not quite so central and make the image stronger. Although I appreciate that some judges will go, well, it's 4 now, you really need odd numbers, but try it and see if it works. What I would do is take out some of the concrete tarmac, whatever you want to call it, at the bottom, because it's dead space, it's not doing anything, and a really quite extreme letterbox would really suit this image. Okay, next one please, if you don't mind, Alan.
Okay.
Yep, this is clearly a Glasgow street scene as well. I really like this one. I think it's a very successful image indeed, actually. I love the interaction between the two standing figures and their expressions. It's been beautifully processed. The shadows, which there are a lot of, have been well handled. and it really suits mono. To my eye, though, most of the interest is in the two figures on the right, the standing ones. But the chap on the left-hand side, he's got a great expression. If you've got enough bandwidth in your file, I would consider cropping to make the two standing guys image by themselves, and the sitting guy an image by himself. That would be probably more successful. But I think it's an excellent street image and I really liked it. Okay, next one is obeying the rules, which is not something I'm keen on, but okay, another colour image. This is very, very topical indeed. There is a lot going on in this image. And I think it would benefit seriously from being converted to mono, which would take down all the distracting colours. And to my eye, it's on a slant. I wonder if the author could consider double checking and seeing if it could be straightened up. Now, it might be what the street was like that, but it does look like it's on quite a slant to me. So maybe trying to go into Photoshop and straighten the column and see what happens. Okay, yep, right, next one please. Ladies in, no, next one please, slippery surface.
Okay.
Right, whoops, wait till I find. Right, I really, really liked this one. I thought there was a really great interaction between both subjects. Although, quite frankly, he's getting a look. So I don't know what's going on there. For me, I think it would slightly benefit from cropping in closer to the subjects to throw them more into prominence. The subject's lighting's quite harsh in it though, but there's not a lot you can do with that. Maybe have a footer with the sliders in Photoshop to see if you can soften it slightly. But I think this one could be very, very good in mono. It has a lot of potential. And I think you should crop in and try having it in mono. And I gave that one a commended. Right, go. Okay, full disclosure. When this one came up on my screen when I was doing the initial judging, I screamed and about dropped my laptop. This is not an ideal photograph for someone who's scared of pigeons to judge. So, however, I gritted my teeth and got on with reviewing the image. It's sharp, it's well caught. The only shame is the little girl who's feeding the pigeons her head's slightly soft. She was obviously nodding just at the very point it was being taken. What I would suggest is if you lose a bit of the top down to the balustrades at the bottom of the windows, and that would draw more attention into your subject. And I also noticed that the wee girl has bright yellow trainers which stand out against the grey of the rats with wings. So I would tone them down a wee bit as well. But yep, very well seen. It's certainly not a photo I could have taken. The minute those pigeons came flying in, I'd be screaming and running the other way. Okay, Alan, next, I'm starting to twitch with all those pigeons. I've got to move on. Okay, Market Day. I actually thought this was an excellent image. It's everything you look for in a sort of market scene. You've got good interaction, you've got colourful produce. Where am I? There's good interaction between the subjects of the lady buying and the lady selling. What I would do is a significant bright patch on the lady who's buying the vegetables, I would tone that down a bit. Easiest way to try and do it is to go into Photoshop or Lightroom, whichever one you do, and pull down the highlight sliders and see what happens. Though I suspect you've lost detail in that. What I would also do is give the image a wee crop to remove the woman in the white at the side and the date stamp. Yes. In the days of film, which I am now sadly old enough to remember, they always said, check the edges of your frame, because you will have something in it that you don't want. And I think in this case, the author saw the photograph and didn't spot the fact that there was date stamp on. If that's still in your camera, take it off, because cloning that out would be a nightmare. But yes, I really like that one. Okay, Alan, next one. Yeah. This is an alternate street view. Excuse me a second while I do a wee slip. Okay, I like this one. It was an alternate street view. It was very well seen. The processing suits it. It makes it look all gritty, like a street scene should be. It's well handled, the exposure. The fussy bit in me wonders if you can clean out. There's a couple of wee round light patches, and they should probably be cloned out because they draw your attention away from your main subject. And what looks like a key or something could also come out there as well. But I really like this one, and I gave that one a commended.
Okay.
Next one, please. Okay, any spare change? Okay, this one was very well seen. But for me, all the interest is around the beggar and the lady who is giving the beggar her change. The exposure is good. It's been well handled. The main problem for me is that the two, what for me are the main subjects, are slightly soft. Well, more than slightly soft, to be honest. And that's a shame, because had that been sharp, that would have been excellent. And the chap walking into the frame is where the focus seems to have hit, and he's periphery to the main photo. I think whoever took this has a great eye for street photographs, and you should really keep going with them. Okay, Alan, can we have Ashton Lane, please? Okay. There are wide, right, okay, white border of death, guys. There's a wide range of tones in this image, and I think it's been a very well captured street scene. And I like the fact they're actually walking away from you. If I put walking towards you, not away, but walking away, I like that. I feel it's a little underexposed and the shadows are blocked up. So I would consider trying to pull the shadows up in this. But very well seen. Okay, next one, please, Alan. Okay, I have to be honest and say I have never, ever seen a photo process like this. And looking at it, I'm wondering why on earth not? Because it is extremely successful. I love the fun treatment of the image, that her reflection was in, I assume it's a her, yes, her reflection was in mono with the vibrant yellow of the hair. How confident would you have to be to have your hair sunshine yellow? It's both innovative and very successful. Couple of wee suggestions, try them, see if they work, is I would slightly crop it to clone out the half car, which bothers me somewhat. And if your Photoshop skills are a little better than mine, or a lot better than mine to be honest, clone out the big red stop sign and its reflections, which slightly takes away from the lady, but I really, really liked that one, and I gave it a highly commended.
Very good.
Next one then. Street art. I thought this was an interesting shot. What I liked about it was the way the subject, whatever he's sitting on, I don't want to know, and the right-hand fireman were both kind of looking in the same direction. The central group of the big painted figures almost form a triangle, and that's what makes the composition work. So it is well composed. We got the white border again, which draws your eye out the frame, and the fingers on the hand. I'm not sure if everyone can see it because of the sidebar, but there are white patches on the fingers on the hand, and I would simply content aware fill them out, and that would make it stronger. Okay, Alan, next one, please. Alan's doing all the work here. I believe this one might be local to us, near Grow Coffee by the look of it. What I liked about this was the expression in the girl's face. I almost wondered if they were having a race. It's well exposed and it's well composed. The background is not distracting despite being quite busy. What I would have liked is a tiny bit of distance between the tot on the tricycle and the pram. But in street photos, unfortunately, what you see is what you get. Not even talking about the border again. I think this is an extremely good image, and that got a highly commended. Okay, next one, please. Heading home. If someone was taking this on the way home from work, points to them, I just run through Central Station at twice the speed of light, trying not to miss my train. I think this has been very well seen. It gives the impression of a busy bus station rather than being just a static photograph. The lighting's been well handled because you can see from the fact you've got different light sources and bands on the pillars of light, which would be difficult to expose for, so it's been very, very well done. Excuse me. My problem with this image is the central figure is just not totally sharp, and that is where your eye ultimately falls, and that's a great shame. So, oops, that's a shame. Okay, Alan, next one.
Yeah.
Right, I don't know who the photographer was of this one, but they've got better nerves than I have. If people have been looking at me the way they're looking at the photographer, I'd have been running away like stink. I think there's lots of potential at the right-hand side at the bottom next to the foot. I would just clone that out, and what looks like a bottle or a fast food wrapper of some sort on the left-hand side. So I would take that out. Apart from that, it was an absolutely cracking image, and in my mind an image that would probably do very well in a photographic salon if the author was so minded, and I gave that one second place. Drum roll, everyone.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Ready. Game on, everyone.
3, 2, 1.
One, go. As I said earlier, let me try to find the beastly thing. As I'd said earlier, I'd had a very bad day at work with people doing things that were causing problems and by not doing what they were told, and I had to be quite firm a lot of the time, which is not in my. I'm trying to find this. Right, do you know what, Lorna? Could you find possibly not while I talk about this one, just to make sure I don't miss any. This made me laugh. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. The range of expressions, the interaction, is absolutely fantastic. The position of it under the word evolution was genius or luck. Whoever took the photograph knows which one it is. The exposure is ideal for the photograph, and what really makes it for me is the chap taking the photograph who breaks up the line. It's an absolutely stupendous photograph, and if I'm being fussy, I would suggest clean up the second O on the inside. I think that's excellent. There was never any doubt that was going to be the first choice. That was the one that jumped out and bit me, and that's also a salon-worthy photo, and I suggest the author tries it in a photographic salon, because I think it would do very well.
Yeah, fabulous.
Okay, thank you so much, guys. I've got calmed down a wee bit. I'm not talking quite so fast. It's quite difficult to judge when you're not in the room. Although I was telling Tracy, could you go on to, it's nature.
There already?
Just 2 seconds till my assistant here, my twin sister, sorts out your slave, sorts out my notes for me. I was telling Tracy yesterday that it's got to be better than my first ever judging attempt, which was at another Ayrshire club, when there's a member with serious learning disabilities who was crying in the front row before I'd even opened my mouth because a previous judge had been beastly to him. Fortunately, and he'd put in 3 of the same tree. Fortunately, one of his photos was quite nice, and I'd been able to give it a 16. So that stopped him crying right away, and then I had to repeat all the comments because he didn't hear them because he was too busy crying. So nothing could be as bad as that. Okay, we're ready. I think it's an absolutely great macro shot. The bug is tack sharp where it needs to be sharp, and it's well exposed. And the size of that's no mean feat. I was working at probably the distances you need to work at for this. The depth of field is minimal, so it's been very well handled. If I could make a suggestion, the author should consider toning down the bright pink, because the fuchsia pink of it distracts a bit from your main subject, or try and crop a little out at the side. I thought this was a really nice one, and I gave it a commended. Next one, please, Alan. Okay. I loves robins. One of the advantages of working from home during the pandemic is to see how much wildlife I actually have in my garden. And I've got 3 sets of robins, and they're beautiful. And this photograph has actually made me think I should probably get out there with my camera and take some. I love the soft lighting on it. It really shows up the texture. Sometimes too harsh a lighting doesn't suit wildlife. It's got a good background. I want the author to consider putting a brush on and darkening down the branch. It's only a minor change, but you'll be shocked and surprised the difference it makes to your image. Because your eye moves slightly from the bird to the light patch in front of it. So I suggest the author tries that, and that will make it a stronger photo, but I really like that one. Okay, Alan, Maggie's. Do you know, I was being thick when I looked at this. I thought, why is this called Maggie? I thought, it's a Magellan penguin. Of course it's called Maggie. But yes, it's a bad hair day. Mine doesn't look quite so bad now, actually. It's beautifully exposed because there's quite a lot of contrast between the darks in part of the bird and a very light background. I'd watch the highlights. They seem to be slightly blown out on the very top of the head. Just pull it back slightly. There's great detail, there's good depth of field, it's sharp where it needs to be sharp, but the background's blown out. Not blown out, I beg your pardon. Background's out of focus, and that's ideal because it throws the bird into focus. You've got the eyes nice and light and bright, and it's really nice. I really like that one. Okay, can I have, oh, can you lose border, please? Right, I was seriously put out with this one. To the author, how can you get it posing like that for you? It moons me every single time I go to that hide. Oh, it turns around and does all the exciting things with its bum towards me. I think this is all joking aside, I think this is a lovely image. The focus is where it should be, on the eye. It's not an easy bird to expose because it's grey, but the feathers are actually quite white in the skirt. But there's no whites lost in the skirt, and it's been well handled. What I would suggest is the background's quite prominent, and I would maybe go into the HSL sliders and fiddle with your greens a bit. Maybe reduce the vibrance of the green, and that would throw your bird into a bit more prominence. Consider taking off a little sliver at the bottom, which would perhaps stop your eye being drawn to the post a bit. Now, what you could also suggest, and if you meet anyone from air, this is my secret technique for wildlife impact, so don't tell them. Put a faint vignette round the bird, which is, you don't want to see it there, just very, very slightly, but you'd be surprised at how much impact it can give and draws your eye into the focus of your subject. Try it, see what it's like. Just don't make it so obvious you can see what it is. Hold on 2 seconds while I help. I'm going back to Notepad, I'm telling you. What are you writing things out for, said my sister. Type it up and put it on the iPad. I can't work the iPad. Do bear with me a second. You're older. Only 10 minutes, but older's older. Okay, I gave that one I commended, by the way. Did I say that? Okay, next one, please, Alan, if you don't mind. You know, I thought that was really nice. It's been well seen and well composed. This is autumn colours, by the way, guys. I would have liked a little better depth of field for the bottom because it's slightly out of focus. I like the colour balances, they're nice. But I would suggest that you maybe try and put a little, play with your shadow slider a bit to add more shadows and warm it up slightly, which might give the image a bit more oomph. But that was very well seen, and that's putting me to shame that I complain about all the leaves in my garden. Okay, Alan, next one, please. I sincerely hope the author was using a long lens for this one, because it looks like it's not going to take any prisoners. It's a fantastic pose. I really liked that one. I thought the texture in the muddy antlers was excellent, and there's good depth of field. I'd be braver with my crop though, and crop in closer to the head and neck, and that would make it really, really striking and pull it up a notch. So I would suggest you try that, because that's a really good image. Just with those tweaks, it might make it a bit more striking. Okay, next one, please. Okay, I thought this was absolutely lovely, so typical of autumn. I like the restrained colour palette, which reminds me of towards the end of autumn when all the leaves are brown and you're not getting the russets and the gold. It means that every single part of your scene gets attention, rather than your attention going to the reds or the bright golds of the leaves. What I would suggest, and maybe is you've got light twigs throughout a couple of light twigs in the image. I would probably be tempted to pull them out because your eye's drawn to the light patches and kind of detract slightly from the scene. So bear that in mind. Anything light or overly bright, your eye is going to be drawn to. So when you're looking through your image, check it out. You might find looking at the image in live view helpful. I know a lot of people view their images and compose their images in live view. I've not quite got the hang of that yet. Being an old-fashioned girl, I still use my viewfinder. Okay, Alan, next one.
Yep.
Okay. I thought this was a great shot and very well seen. Lose the white border. You know what? I'm going to stop saying lose the white border. Just take it as read. It's nicely exposed. What I would be tempted to do in this one is crop in a wee bit. All the peripherals around the fungi are detracting from, to my mind, it might not be to your mind, but detracting a bit from the main subject, which is a fungi. But it's a very nice shot and very well seen. Okay. Next one, please, Alan.
Here you go.
Hey. Faster than a speeding bullet, these things. This is red kite feeding. Whoever took this has fabulous reactions because they fly like fury. It's extremely difficult to catch them when they're going down to feed. The exposure is nailed. Often the white of the head can be blown out because the bird itself is actually quite dark in tone. I would crop the muddy bit out at the top because it detracts from your image. And I would maybe try to see if I can pull up the shadows underneath the forward wing just to try and get a bit more detail in. But that's a very nice image. And it's made me think that when the world sensibilises, I need to get back to Lauriston and have another go. Okay, Alan, next one, please. You know what? That's giving you a look. Whoever took that, it really was giving you a see you look. It's a ferocious looking bird. I take it it's a grey heron. Don't know, maybe the author can...
Yeah.
Yep, good. I didn't want to say it's a grey heron if my bird identification skills were not up to scratch. Oops, I've done it again. Oops. Bear with me. I'll different look. If you're going to cut off legs, either have the whole feet shown or cut the whole things off. I would be tempted to try and lift it slightly or darken down the legs a wee bit. I don't know if there's treatment or something on the water at the back, or is it just the shutter speed? There's great texture in the feathers and great timing for the expression and the fact it almost looks like it's trying to mantle. So I like that one and it's good. And perhaps at half time the author can tell me if they put a treatment on the water at the back to try and blur the highlights. It doesn't matter if it's not a full-on nature shot. If you crop things or take things out, if it's a pictorial shot, that's fine. If it's a nature shot and you're being judged by the nature rules, you're not allowed to take things out and things like that. So putting a background in might be a good idea. Right, next please, Alan. You know, that's a beautiful shot. It's a superb image actually. I think there's great detail in it. Exposure's excellent for it. The only point I've got on this one is that on my monitor, the point of sharpness is slightly behind the head, and that's held it back slightly. But it's an absolutely beautiful image, and I gave that a commended. Okay, next one. Called Cheeky Monkey, this one, and I just love its expression. Absolutely great. Texture in the fur is excellent. Yes, it's out of focus on the shoulder, but that, to my mind, doesn't bother me because it actually draws your eye in to the face. I think there's great use of negative space in it. Normally you'd expect it to be cropped a bit tighter, but I think this works because the negative space mirrors the shape of the monkey. What I would do though is to tone down the light patches in the background and the bokeh a bit, simply to draw more prominence to the monkey itself. But I liked that and I gave it a highly commended. Next one, please, Alan. Oops, I'm passing my thing over. Stop flapping. Was that stop flapping so I can take a photograph? Oops. There we go. I think the pose is great. And I particularly like the blur to the wings. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but using too high a shutter speed will cause the wings to be static and don't give any idea of the motion of it, and that lifts it considerably from almost just like a fairly standard to a sort of more arty take on wildlife. And I'm a total sucker for blurred wings in wildlife. Gives you a greater sense of the bird. I like the water that's on the feathers. What I would suggest to the author is to take down a bit of the rippled water at the top and maybe consider the highlight. Oh, wait a minute. Scrap the bit up the top to take down the distracting ripples and highlights, and I think that will make it a much stronger image. Okay, Alan, next one, please.
There you go.
I thought this was a beautiful image, lovely shot and very well seen. It's one of the main curses of nature photography that they always do things exactly the way you don't want them to do. In this case, it's in front of a light patch. What I would suggest doing for this one is perhaps tone down the highlights in the head a wee bit. And if your competition rules allow, take out the light patch at the back. If not, tone it down a bit. I thought that was an absolutely beautiful image. Very well done. Okay, Alan, can I have the last apple? I think this one's been well seen. It's an interesting subject, particularly with the sort of, I was going to say shabby detail in the apple. I don't know what the correct term is, but it's nice soft light which suits the subject. What I would suggest is crop in more seriously to give more prominence to the apple and the two branches above it, and this would make it a much more striking image. So I would suggest that the author try that and see what they think about it. Okay, next one, please. Now this one's called Protected Mother, and I think it's a lovely nature shot. These birds are extremely hard to expose for because there's such a range of tonal value between the dark and the light. It's like puffins. They're a beast to expose. I would suggest that maybe you try and take down the highlight, take down the white a little to try and get more texture in the feathers. It's only a minor thing. It's razor sharp where it needs to be. Its expression and pose is beautiful, and I gave it a commended. And if that was taken from a moving boat, points for effort. Okay, next one. I love this shot because of the expression of the primate's face. It's excellent. The texture of the fur is fab. The exposure's been very well handled. I don't know if this is natural exposure or you've used flash or something for it, but it's been very well handled. I don't know if this is in the wild or not, but a few of the chaps in our camera club went to Edinburgh Zoo and came back with some absolutely amazing shots where they'd taken photographs of lynxes and things like that and blacked the background. And it was really, really striking. And maybe that's something you can consider for that, because the background is rather messy and detracts from the shot. But be aware, if you black the background, it's a Marmite shot and judges could either love or hate it. I could also suggest that you might want to consider what it would be like in mono, or a mono, because that would also be lovely in mono. I really liked this image. It didn't bother me the tail was cut off, because all the interest really is in that face, and I gave that a highly commended. Okay, Alan?
Yeah.
I'm not singing Do a Deer to you. I am not a Sound of Music fan, so no singing. I think this is a very nice pose, and I love the direct eye contact with the subject. It's got good texture on the fur, and it's a nice image. What I would say is it's a little bit tight in the frame. For anyone that takes wildlife, the tendency is splat a long lens on and getting as closely as you possibly can. However, you still need some negative space around it to allow the animal to breathe. If you go in too close, particularly for headshot, it's sometimes a very old-fashioned looking picture and can get marked down accordingly. I kind of like the environmental shot. I would definitely, if you go back, try and leave a bit more space around it. If you can't, try and clone out the black at the top right hand corner, which draws your eye again. Okay, next one is nutless. You know, it's nice to see a picture of a red squirrel, a grey squirrel even, sorry. It's a great crop, but I would almost have suggested to go in a wee bit closer so that you're almost at the bottom of the V at the top of its elbow. Just go, be brave with the crop. It's nice and sharp where it needs to be sharp. It's nice and bright in the eye. I would suggest you darken the background slightly, because that would throw the squirrel into a lot more prominence. Okay, next one please, Alan. I love this shot. I'm not 100% sure whether the spots in the background are rain or not, or spots. From the title, I think they are spots of rain. If you're trying to photograph rain, I would suggest a shutter speed between 1/80th and 1/125th, which gives nice effects and the streaks to make it obvious it's rain. But it depends on how heavy the rain is, and I would suggest that you try it at all different shutter speeds and pick the ones you like best. This is my secret technique, so this is not something to be shared with Air Photographic Society. You've got to keep some secrets. I think there's good texture on the fur. I like the fact it's wet. There's not an awful lot else you would do to this. It's a nice pose. If you wanted to consider pulling it up a bit at the bottom, that's fine, but the image works as it is. It's just a suggestion to see what it would be like. One of the things I don't do when I'm judging is I do not check your EXIF data, and I certainly don't try and make any changes to your photographs, because I've got to judge the photographs as seen and not fiddle with them. Okay, Alan, next one, please. Yes. I have to watch my time, have I? Oh God, haven't I? Right, I'm keeping you a lot off your coffee. Fungi. This is such a difficult thing to take. I do love the viewpoint, and I love the shape of the fungus. What I would suggest is keep an eye in the background, as some of the light bits are distracting, and the focus is in the middle of the mushroom or fungus or whatever, and the out of focus bit at the front is slightly distracting, but it was very well done all the same. Okay, Alan, next.
Right.
I'm speeding up now because I've just been informed by my sister I'm keeping you a lot off your coffee. This is a harrier hawk. I think this is a lovely portrait. It's got a good catch light in the eye. The feather detail's well held. Particularly against such a light background. If I was being fussy, I would suggest lose a white background, yes, light white border, and bring up the bottom so that dark band at the bottom has been removed, and that would improve the image enormously. Next one, please, Alan. Okay, you guys have got to be aware that this is a Marmite shot. You're either going to love it or you hate it. I love this shot. I think it's a fantastic behavioural shot. The blurring of the head adds to the story of the frantic feeding of the chick. The only suggestions I would make are you need to give the birds a bit more impact by darkening the fence and the tree behind to throw them into more prominence. So be brave and darken them like fury and see what happens. But I think this was a fantastic behavioural shot, and I gave it a commended. Okay, next one, please. Oh, I love swans. This was going to be my project this year, trying to get a swan on the back of its mother's wings, which only happens for 24 hours after hatching. Never managed it due to the lurgy. So I'm very envious of this because it's a lovely shot. I'm impressed, quite frankly, the author's got all the signets in focus because they're not all, they're very difficult all to get in the same plane of focus because they go all over the place. Lose the border because the border is a serious distraction and probably held this image back a little bit. It doesn't bother me all the signets aren't looking in the right direction because it gives more an impression of her trying to deal with a brood of recalcitrant kiddies, and I gave that one a commended. Right. Just as well I don't have arachnophobia. He scared me once with pigeons, just as well I'm not scared of spiders. I think the depth of field has been very well handled in this. Its head and eyes are sharp, and the eye has a catch light, which is really important. Would like to have seen the body sharp, but sometimes this is not possible, and I think at the magnification this is, unless you stacked them, it would be difficult to do. What I would suggest is tone down the lighter patches at the bottom, but it's an absolutely great shot, and I really like that one. Okay, Alan, next one, please. Right, damselfly pair. This is actually very difficult to take due to the unreasonable habit of trying to mate on wing. I think the composition's a very nice diagonal. It's been very well thought out. The background is distracting. There's not a lot you can do about it. To be honest, these things will land where they want to land, and that's it. What I would suggest is trying to tone down the green patch a bit, so you're at the corner, so your eye doesn't go to it. I think that's an extremely nice image all the same, and I gave it a commended.
Very good.
Next, please. First bud of spring. It's a nice composition. I think there's lovely texture in this image. It's been well seen because most of us will walk past it. Where am I? It's sharp, totally sharp right the way through. If I was being critical, I would suggest that you take down the highlights on the top right hand side. But apart from that, it's a really nice image. And it's maybe something I maybe consider looking for myself next year. Right, next one please, Alan. Interesting. I'm just trying to work out if that's that log, these logs at Culzean. I think this has been well seen. The sharp light picks out the ducks. For such an extremely contrasty scene, it's been very well exposed. For me, there's a tiny bit too much going on. I would also take a little bit off the top of, where am I? To make the log a bit more prominent. But all the same, it's a nice image and well seen. Right, next one, please. Where's the stag party? Nice shot of a stag. Wee bit tightly cropped. It's been well exposed, but I would lighten the eye a bit because the eye's a little dark. But I do like the fact it's got a nice clean background. Almost actually looks like this slight backlighting to the antlers, but it's really nice and very well spotted. Next, please. Somebody speed off. I think it's a lovely crisp shot. That was my first impression of this shot, how sharp everything was in it. The depth of field's been well handled, and there's plenty of negative space for the beastie to move into. And I think the letterbox works really well in this, really well indeed. Do not be afraid of using letterboxes in nature. Although I would say if Gordon Raymond comes to judge for you, don't ever give him a letterbox shape nature, and don't ever give him a mono nature, just a word to the wise, because he'll mark them down every time because he hates them. I would suggest try to darken the background to bring the snail more into focus. But apart from that, it's a really splendid shot, and I would have been pleased to take this one myself. Next one, please. I think this is a lovely environmental portrait of a robin in its habitat. I think there's good texture in the feathers. What held this one back was a couple of issues. First issue is down at the bottom. It might not be the case, but to me it looks like things have been cloned out. And the repeating pattern makes it quite obvious, to be honest. It might not be the case, but that's what it looks like. In these circumstances, content aware is your best friend rather than trying to use a clones tool or anything like that. For the noise, I've recently got myself some topaz denoise, and it's miraculous in a noisy image, which a lot of wildlife images can be. So I suggest you maybe try either denoising it in Lightroom or trying topaz denoise. If you do a lot of wildlife photos, it might be worth getting topaz denoise. You've only one, just get the 30-day trial and run it through it, and that's worthwhile. Okay, next one please, Alan. You know, we're seeing a lot of fungi at the moment. I think this one is really nice. I like the three. Got to have a traditional judgy comment somewhere. Three's a good number for a judge. The lighting's well handled. It's a really nice shot. If I was being fussy, there's lots of little white spores at the bottom. I'd probably clone them out just to make the base of the photo a little cleaner. But I gave this one a highly commended. Thanks, Alan. Next one, please. I'm glad to see you guys are doing some garden birds, because so often they're ignored for headline species like kingfishers and sparrowhawks. And I'm as guilty as everyone else. I think this is a gorgeous shot of a beautiful bird. It's good depth of field. The background enhances the image, as quite frankly does the rain. And I see you've got streaks of the rain. I would suggest that you maybe try put a brush in the background and play with the white or highlight sliders to make the rain more prominent. But this is an absolutely beautiful, beautiful image, and I gave that one a highly commended. Okay, next one. Treehouse. This is nature taking over here, definitely. It's an interesting concept picture and it's been well seen. What I would suggest is the left-hand side foliage is very dark, so I'd take that out to make the villa a bit more prominent. The contrast between the light villa and the dark trees has been well handled, and it's a nice crisp image. Okay, now are we ready for our top three? Just need to find that out. What's this one called? The forest floor. Bear with me while I find it. That's got it. I think this is absolutely superb. There's a great sense of mood, and you get the impression of the light coming through the forest covering onto the forest floor. The background's out of focus, but the immediate surroundings of the mushrooms have been well handled. The only thing I would say is slightly toned down the highlight on the top mushroom, just a fraction. I thought that was a belter, and I gave it third place. Oh, nuts. This is a fantastic pose. The exposure's been really well handled. They don't look a difficult thing to expose, but the white on the fur of the chest can burn out so quickly. And it's very, very easy to overexpose the white. And I can tell you from experience, you don't stay in that pose very long. And it's extremely difficult to get one with a nut in its mouth without its hands at it. If your rules allow cloning out, I'd clone out the nuts at the right-hand side and the bit of greenery that touches the very side of the squirrel. I think that is just beautiful, and I gave that second place. Right, are we ready for our drum roll? Drum roll, everyone. It's first place time. This is called fast food. I think the depth of field is absolutely excellent in this. Everything's sharp that should be, and at this magnification, it's no mean feat, to be honest. If I was being really fussy, I would suggest that you clone out the green bits of grass between the mushrooms. Apart from that, that was a well-deserved first place. Very well done. Okay. Is it time for a quick coffee break?
Yeah, I think so. You ready, Al?
Fired back up.
Yeah. Right, let's go for it then.
Getting onto the landscape one. Thank you, Lorna. You wouldn't think Lorna's the older queen, would you?
You ready, Alan?
I'm okay with anyone else's.
As soon as my sister gets the thing up, that's fine.
Okay, you're ready to share.
Right, game on. Okay, I think this is a lovely tranquil image. This is Iona sunset. I think this is a lovely tranquil image. I really like the shape of the clouds, and I like the sun trail over the bay. My eye is drawn to the blotch so on it, which is not so prominent in this laptop, but in my own one there was quite a blotch in the sky which needed cloned out, just under the top cloud. Did you consider whether it should be cropped? I did consider whether it should be cropped, but I thought that took away from the tranquility of the image. I feel the strand of rocks at the right-hand side leads you in and stops your eye wandering out of the frame. So it was a very nice image. Okay, Fairly Falls, please.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much to the author who's given me an idea of where to go and take some photographs. And instead of being in Glencoe taking photographs next week, I'm stuck in North Ayrshire. I really like this one. I feel the water comes down in a serpentine motion, and the contrast on the water and the waterfall is handled very well. I think a very slightly slower shutter speed would have added more texture to the water, but not very much. What bothers me is the highlights to the trees. I would have pulled the highlights, put a brush on and pulled the highlights to the trees on the left-hand side back very significantly. But apart from that, it is a very nice image and I gave that a commended. Okay, so well done. And thank you for the tip, guys. There is a waterfall behind Fairley where you can actually walk into the cave and shoot through the waterfall back. So I'm just trying to find where that is at the moment. So if I find it, I'll let you all know. Okay, calm morning at the loch. This is a very striking image. I think the reflections in the water are absolutely lovely. But I feel the bushes at the front take away from it slightly. The sky's lovely, but can you pull the blue back a little? If you've been at the Dehaze slider, it might be an idea to take it back slightly. There's a big bit of bush hidden underneath everyone's pictures at the right-hand side. I would suggest cloning that out as well. Okay, Alan, thank you so much.
Okay.
Valverde Castle. I think this is a well thought out composition. The lines lead you through the image and the frame. It's such a terrible shame that the light is so flat in it. There are things you can do, like for example, you could try and pull up a bit more detail in the sky. I almost hesitate to use the D word, but I think the sky itself could do with a tiny wee bit of dehaze or maybe a little texture to try and bring out a bit more of what seems to be already there. Possibly texture rather than dehaze. I think if you're anywhere nearby this again, it's certainly worth revisiting in more dramatics, probably side lighting. Also consider it as a mono because it's a very nice image. Okay, Alan, next one again, please. I think this is a very nice image. Is it the Clock Lighthouse? I don't know.
Looks like it.
Yeah.
I'd say that the highlights on the building are very slightly burnt out, so I'd pull them back a wee bit. Possibly just doing the highlights slider might work. The texture is absolutely lovely on the foreground. Great texture in the foreground. Just check the building's not falling backwards. That might be the way it is. Oops, 2 seconds. You need a new iPad. This one's being temperamental. At least I know what to get Lorna for her Christmas now. I would love to see this particular scene in slanting sidelight to bring out the textures of the foregrounds. I did wonder whether you should crop it to bring the lighthouse more into focus, but I think the scene does need the space on the left-hand side to show it in its context, and I think it's a very nice image. Okay, Alan, next one, please. Thank you, kind sir. This is Dumfriesshire Meadows. I think this is a lovely, tranquil image. A lot of photographers that shoot landscape like myself are total drama addicts, and sometimes you overlook the beauty of a quiet, tranquil, peaceful scene like this. I like the fact the cottage is on the third, and the soft lighting really suits this particular image. If you can in Photoshop, I would put a grad on the sky and try and pull it back a bit, because the overlight sky draws your eye away from the image. But I thought that was a really nice one, and I gave it a commended. Okay, Alan, thank you very much. Right, this is something that's on my to-do list, is Sycamore Gap. I've got to say it, I haven't said it for this session, lose the white borders, please. They detract from what's a fine image. What I like about this one is the fact it's a different view of Sycamore Gap. Every photograph you see of Sycamore Gap is a close-up of the hills and the trees. This one has nice leading lines with the fence and the trees leading all towards that lone sycamore. Might be tempted to clone out the stonework at, I keep saying right-hand side, left-hand side. I don't know if it's a mile castle or something from Hadrian's Wall, but it takes away from the image a little, but I think that's a lovely shot. Okay, next one, please. I think this is a lovely mono. It appeals to the fussy bit in me that you haven't cut the pier off at the side. The highlights are handled well. I would have liked the water to be a wee bit smoother by using a longer shutter speed. If you want to consider whether it would be appropriate to take a tiny bit off the bottom of the water, that might make the image stronger, because the sky is extremely strong and the water isn't. So try that and see what you think. Okay, next one. I'm a bit worried about trying to pronounce that one. Schiehallion. I don't know if that's the right pronunciation. I think this is a lovely image. What I like about it is the fact that the figures give it scale and a sense of place, which would otherwise have been an empty image. What I'd suggest is, with a landscape like this, you want to process for drama. Try and put more shadows in it to create a sense of depth, and see how that works for you. Cruising by the Craig. Next one, please, Alan.
Okay.
Okay, I'm a drama queen. I like the dramatic sky. How dramatic is that? I think the composition's been extremely careful, because you've got the U shape of the foreground echoing the U shape of Ailsa Craig. I did wonder whether it would be better without the boat, but it actually gives scale. And there is unfortunately no other place you could actually have it without detracting from the image. So it's a good choice to put it there. I would lighten the foreground a bit because the dark takes away from your eye. Also looks like it's had some sort of, it might just be wind or something. It looks like it's had some sort of Gaussian blur effect applied to the front. I'm not sure you need it. Just lighten it up a wee bit. Okay, next one, please, Alan. Okay. Conventional wisdom says that you shouldn't actually put in bits of a building like that. But I don't think in this case that applies, because a great deal of care has been taken to try and get a composition that's dynamic. I think you need that to hold it. And it starts the leading lines which go in. Where am I? To lead us back to the mountains. The sky is lovely, but what I would say is my eye stops and holds at the dark band in the middle. For the image to be successful with kind of zigzagging of the rocks, you absolutely need to lighten them up. So try that and see if that makes a difference to your image. Can I have the next one, please, Alan, while I get... Bear with me. Yep, come along, slave. I'm going to be in such trouble when I get off this call, I suspect.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, yeah, man. Oops. I think we've gone on to a different one, Lorna. Yep, got it. Where am I? Bear with me. Beyond the lighthouse. A bridge too far, this one is. Yes, it is. Okay. What I like, my initial thought when I looked at this one was I loved the repetition of shapes, the bridge, and the reflections. The cyclist is in a great position to draw your eye through the image. It may be my monitor, but it looks a little light. I would suggest trying to reduce the exposure a little. And I would also suggest check whether your horizon is on a slant, because it certainly looks like it to me a bit. And kill the duck. Well, not literally, but the half cut off duck at the front's a bit distracting, so I would clone that out. Okay, but it was well seen and I do like that one. Next one is Glen Etive. I believe I've been in Glen Etive before, but I can't remember very much about it, and this because I had a broken elbow and shoulder and industrial strength painkillers at that point. But this has given me the urge to go back and have a look again. I think this is a very well composed photograph. You know what I'm going to say about the border of doom, so I don't have to say it. I think the leading lines in this image lead you right the way through the frame. The foreground adds depth. There is a white line above the hills to the right hand side. I don't know if it's been sharpened too much, but if there's any way you could lose that, try and lose it. The colour saturation is maybe a bit too warm. That might be the natural colour saturation of the day, but for someone who wasn't there, it looks a wee bit too saturated. So try dialing it back a smidge and see what happens. But I thought this was a beautiful, beautiful image and I gave it a commended. Okay, next one. Right, Vicente Perez Rosales National Park. I think there's been a great deal of thought gone into this to try and resolve what could be quite a difficult composition. The exposure has been handled very well, as there's quite a range from the greyish rocks to the white of the mountain. There's great textures, particularly in the foreground. I would darken the sky a little, because there's quite a lot of contrast between the sky and the foreground. For me, there are 2 points of focus in this image, the tree and the mountain, and they're competing a bit for my attention visually, but all the same, a nice image. Okay, steaming ahead, please. this is a beautiful Highland scene. For any of you nerds out there, is that the Harry Potter train? Very nice. I think the soft light in which this has been taken really suits the scene. I like the space for the train to move into. There's lovely textures. The space gives an impression of movement as well. There's lovely textures in the rock and in the water. It's really well exposed, and it isn't an easy thing to expose by the look of it. I was just wondering, there is quite a lot going on, and that it looks like a walkway or something kind of bothers me a bit. Is there any way you could try to make it a letterbox and see if for the train, see if that makes it a stronger photo? But it was well seen all the same. Next one, please. United we conquer. Okay. The figures in the Commando Memorial are placed on a third. And that's a good place to place them. A lot of times you see this particular scene bang central. I think it's a lovely moody image, and it really suits Command Memorial. The positioning of the memorial shows it in its context of the hills these poor souls trained in. What I would do if it was my image would be to slightly lighten the statue, which is a bit dark, and blend slightly in to make it stand out, and maybe pull up the whites. I would also try some of Clive's ninja mono tricks for black and white in this, because this image has a lot of potential, and it's really, really nice, and I gave that one a commended. Next one is Brooding Ballast Banks. Okay, I love the composition on this one. The rocks take you right the way through the image. Because this is a long exposure, it doesn't look as though you've some texture in the whites. From peering at it, it looks like it's all there. You just need to bring it up by playing perhaps with a texture slider on a brush over that bright bit of water. Now there is a bluish cast, which is fairly normal with a long exposure filter. I tend to I've got the Kelvin set on my camera for 9500 for when I'm doing long exposures, and automatically just switch to that before I put the long exposure filter on. But this is a serious health warning. Please put it back. I found that one out by accident, thinking, what's wrong with my photos? They're all sort of day glow yellow, and it turns out I hadn't put it back to daylight white balance. I would pull up the shadows and play with the sliders and see what happens in this particular image for the rocks, but I think that's an excellent image and I commended it. Next one, please, Alan. Right, this is a nice image. I almost feel I could be there. It gives you a great sense of place. I like the way the path leads you in and tells you the story of a walk through the forest. It leads you totally into the centre of the image. I would suggest losing a wee bit off either side, but please leave the fern intact because it holds the image, and lose a light spot off the top as it takes away from your view of a sort of dim woodland walk. I would bring up the shadows to the right hand side to show a little more detail in the rock cut, but the exposure was well handled for such a wide range of tones, and I gave that one a commended. Okay, next one please. Calming the Tides of War. I didn't get the title, if I'm being honest, but the image itself was skillfully well exposed and well processed. It's not an easy thing with such a range of tones between the dark sand and gravel and the ice. I would suggest taking a little off the sky to focus more on the eyes, and perhaps light and heavy blue of the sky to again bring more attention to the eyes. It works really well, and I gave that one a highly commended. And I love the texture in the eyes, by the way. Okay, Misty Morning is a lovely atmospheric shot. I like the way you've got the mist handled to be white. Thank you. Thank you. This is why I take notes. I think it was a good call to crop out the sky, as it looks like it might have been fairly clear blue. I think the rocks at the bottom hold the composition and stop your eye wandering off. The shadows in the reflections are, for me, a teeny bit blocked up, so I would maybe try and pull them up a bit and take down the clarity a bit to enhance this feeling of mist and etherealness that the image deserves. But it's a nice image. Okay, next one please, Alan. I was in two minds about whether this had the treatment as solarized or something like that or not, but I think it's got great potential, the image. I love the minimalist feel. The clouds have been well handled. The blacks are a bit blocked up, and I would like to have seen more detail in Ailsa Craig, but it's a nice, unusual image. Okay, next one, please. Okay, I'm a sucker for sunsets. I freely admit it. If there was a thing for sunsetaholics, I'd probably be a member. I love the feel of this one. Now, it's always a problem looking at other people's sunsets because we get such vibrant sunsets in this part of the world. You could be easily accused of dialing up the saturation when that's actually as it came out the camera. I don't know if that's the case with this one, but it does look a little saturated. So it might be worthwhile dialing back the orange a little bit. I would also suggest putting a brush on Troon and try to get a little more detail by pulling up the blacks and the shadows. Not too much, because it's quite nice with the dark base, but just a little more. But that's a nice image. Next one, please, Alan. Right, Iguazu Falls. This one really shows off the power of the falls. Although for what I know of Iguazu Falls, it might not be the whole shooting match. I like the fact the authors pulled out to show more of the falls, and particularly the mist coming back up from the water crashing down. I feel the foreground holds the image and needs it to give it depth. I would darken down the sky, which takes away from the falls a bit, to be honest. And if possible, try and get a little texture into the smoke. I don't know if that's the correct term for the misty stuff that comes up from a crashing falls, but we just go with smoke. What I would do is content aware fill out the small purpley flower on the left hand side, which doesn't add anything, and lose the border. But that's lovely. Oops. Next one, please. I love the minimalist of the landscape. Light of the setting sun picks up beautifully in the rock. I would consider darkening the sky a fraction, so your eye doesn't bleed out of the top left-hand side. Minimalist landscapes are actually surprisingly difficult to do, and I think this one works really well. And it was really well. The only thing I would say is it's not perhaps enough on the right-hand side to hold it, but it's a good composition all the same. Next one, please. Okay, Hills of Glenfarg. This is a beautiful scene and well spotted. I think you lot have a wee thing about cloud inversions and mist at the moment. The exposure is spot on. I would suggest trying to take a little off the bottom because the grass at the bottom takes away from the main focus, which is the Scottishness of the trees and the white cottage and the hills. Try playing with the black and shadows for the trees to see if that makes any difference. To me, it's fine if a little dark your trees, just play with it and see what happens. But I would definitely try and get a bit more detail into the sky to make it more moody and more dramatic. Okay, next one, please. I think this is a nice image and well seen. Ah, thank you for clarifying that, Alan.
What's that?
I actually vaguely wondered if it was a Game of Thrones reference. So that's good. And is that your Carlson? However you pronounce it in Iceland?
Yes, it is.
Excellent. I'm going to Iceland in January 22 and I'll be there, so I'm now officially excited.
You will love it.
So I can't come quick enough, to be quite frank. There's a lot of texture in this particular image. And to me, there's a lot going on. I'd be tempted to cut the bottom of the image off and concentrate on the top 3 layers, which would make it considerably stronger and give it substantially more impact. Okay, next one, please. It's a nice image. The river leads you through the frame. The exposure is good, but the whites on my monitor anyway look slightly blown in bits, just very slightly on the rocks at the right hand side. I'd try pulling back the highlights to see if you can rectify this. There are high contrast areas in this image, but it's been handled fairly well and it's a nice tranquil image. Okay, next one please. That's just so Scottish it defies description, the colours of that sky. This is sunrise at Loch Tula. It's a beautiful tranquil image. The longer, I think it's got a slightly longer, not too much exposure, but the movement allows slight movement in the clouds, which adds to the image. Some of the highlights in the sky draw the eye, to be honest. So I would try taking that down a wee bit, or quite frankly, darkening down the sky. I know in nature, the reflections are a third to half of a stop darker at minimum than what is being reflected by. But as this is pictorial, I would just darken down the sky a wee bit and that would solve your highlight problem. I really liked this one and I gave it a highly commended. Next one please, Alan. Old Church Graveyard. I think this is a lovely shot. I think the letterbox worked really well. If you wanted to, you can maybe take it up a fraction at the bottom, see if that made it a little more striking. That would be personal taste because the image works as it is. The exposure is good, but I can't help thinking when I look at this that this would be absolutely stunning in raking low late afternoon light. And if it's somewhere nearby the author or somewhere the author's likely to do, I would revisit that. Also wondered what it would be like in mono, because that could be quite a strong mono, particularly with the texture in the sky. That's very nice. Right. Goodness, next one, Alan, please. I am not sure how to pronounce that, but here goes, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. Is it being do? You?
No idea.
Right, whoever says it, as they said it, it's nicely exposed. I have a taste for sunbursts. I must be going back to my past when sunbursts were all the rage. I think the clouds on the right, I keep saying left-hand side are glorious, all dark and moody, and I like the clouds on the right-hand side. It's just a shame there weren't more of the clouds. There are a couple of wee black spots on the sea. Don't know if they're fishing buoys or things like that. But I would lose them anyway, because they just kind of draw your eye away from your main subject. Being fussy, it's just kind of a shame that the boat's pointing out of the frame rather than into the frame. Thank you very much, Elle. But that's lovely, sort of lilac-y light, very nice. Okay, next one, please. Okay, this one's well seen. I really like it. You've done well to control the exposure, because that cannot have been easy with the underpass and the lightness outside the tunnel. In post-processing, I would try and darken the scene through the archway a bit, because it is a little light to my eye. Pity about the lamppost though. If you're feeling brave, you can try and take it out in both the scene and the reflection. I feel the person with the dog gives a sense of scale, and they're in the right position. They're just small enough that they don't distract from the scene. I need directions to this location, because that is really, really nice. And I gave this one a commended. Okay, Alan, next one, please. Right, first of all, you know what I'm going to say about the border. It takes away from the image. I think this is a superb image. It's a little bit warm, perhaps. If you get this feedback from other judges, I would strongly suggest checking your monitor and calibrating it. It looks a wee bit warm and slightly yellowy to both in my own laptop and this one. I think the muddy path or road leads us to the old mill, which is well positioned. My tendency would be to suggest you crop out the muddy path, but if you hold your hand up, that's not the right thing to do. That leads you right the way through with a lovely sweeping curve, and it's just right the way it is. I think it adds seriously to the tale of desolation of the scene, and I think this was an absolute belter and gave it a highly commended. Okay, next one please, Alan. Okay, this is a lovely tranquil scene. Contrasts have been handled quite well. The time of day that it's been taken at makes it inevitable that we contrast, because it looks like it's been quite middle or high end of the day rather than early or late. The focus appears to be on the reeds on my monitor, and it might not be as crisp at the back as perhaps it could be. This happened to me a lot until I learnt to love my depth of field preview button, where I could see exactly where the sharpness was. That's maybe something to check out in your own camera. Take a bit off the bottom so the edge of the reeds on the right hand side are at the edge of the frame, and this is going to draw your attention right the way through. It's a neat compositional trick. If you've diagonals or lines, have them start at the bottom of your frame and sweep in. But nice image. Next one, please. Okay, Gullfoss. I love the square crop on this. It suits the image very well indeed, actually. The rainbow is gravy on an already lovely scene for me. I love the patches of light, but I would maybe suggest that you darken the one at the front a wee bit, just a tad, just to stop your eye grabbing on it and away from the waterfall. But I thought this was really, really nice, and I gave that one a highly commended. Next one. Right, we lose the border of doom, and I'll not give you a rendition of AC/DC's Thunderstruck for this one. Thank you all the same. My singing could clear halls. I do like this image. There's a great deal of texture in it and adds to the sense of desolation of the scene. If I'd be critical, I'd tone down the bottom left-hand corner as a light patch in the pool of stagnant water draws my eye. The exposure was well handled, but I would suggest maybe toning down the lighter reeds on the right-hand side that aren't drawing so they aren't drawing your eye from the boat. Okay, Maestro. What's this one called? I've got to find it first. Bear with me. You can all feast your eyes on Ode to Autumn till I find my comments.
Oh, this is the third, isn't it?
It is. I found it. Third placed, Ode to Autumn. The light in this one is absolutely glorious. The colours are glowing. The hut is positioned well. If I had to be critical, I'm not even talking about the border. If I had to be critical, I would say lose the post. It draws your eye and detracts from what is a very beautiful image. So that was a well-deserved third place. Congratulations to the author. Okay, I'm going the wrong way for this one. This is second place, called Great Langdale. I absolutely love this one. It has a massive sense of depth due to the patches of light in the hills. The reflections have been very well handled and is darker than the sky, which is how it is in nature as well. The sky is a fraction light, and I would pull it back a bit and see if that would make any difference to the scene, but it was a very well deserved second place. Congratulations to the author.
You want to do the
Drum
drum
roll,
roll?
please.
3, 2, 1.
Go for it. Right. This is called After the Storm, and it's got everything to love about it. The sky's moody, it's dramatic, it's amazing. You got crepuscular rays coming down and hitting the water. If I had to be uber critical, I think the blue could maybe be taken back slightly in the sky, although it does contrast with the gold nicely. Because sometimes judges accuse you of over-egging the pudding. That was a natural colour, so just think whether it needs to be toned down a wee bit. Where am I? I've lost it. I love the dark hill, which gives a sense of recession of tones. The gold reflection in the water ties everything together, and I think this is absolutely stunning photograph. Congratulations to the author, and thank you very much for being so patient with me on my first Zoom viewing. I would like to give you a wee round of applause.
Thank you.
Very much.
Right, I'll just read the scores out first before I'll ask Clive then to sign the night off. Going back to the first subject, which was street life, commended was Scott Bradford for Pavel, commended. Paul Kelly, The End, commended. Kevin Thorne, Alienated Society, commended. David Spielman, Street Warrior, commended. Alan Campbell, I Believe I Can Fly, commended. Clive Watkins, Slippery Surface, commended. Ian Johnston, Leftovers, commended. Highly commended. Agnes DL, Santa Dash. Tracy Ross, Little Monster. Alan Kempster, Sunshine Supernova, and Pete Haywood, Headwind. In third place was Robin Gemmell, Penny for Your Thoughts. In second place was Tracy Ross, Ladies Waiting. And in first place was Robert Walk, Possibly Not. And the next one is The Nature. Commended Scott Bradford, Stinkbug, Michelle Campbell, Lunchtime. Andy Burns, Caddy in My Home. Clive Watkins, Protective Mother. Ian Johnston, Hungry Chick. Kevin Thorne, Swan Lake. Alan Kempster, Damselfly Pair. And highly commended were Pete Haywood, Cheeky Monkey. David Spielman, Sitting on the Edge. Debbie Andrews, Woodland Trio. And Michelle Campbell, Chaffinch. In third place was Tracy Ross, Forest Floor. In second place was Alan Campbell, Oh Nuts. In first place was Clive Watkins with Fast Food. And onto the landscape. Commended first, Ross Apple, Fairley Falls. Ian Johnston, Dumfriesshire Meadow. Jim Mason, Glenetive. Robin Gemmell, United We Conquer. Tracy Ross, Brooding Ballast Bank. Pete Haywood, Into the Woods. Alan Campbell, Autumn on the Town Trail. Highly commended was Alan Campbell, Climbing the Tower.
The Town Trail, yeah.
What's that?
It was me that you said Alan Campbell's. You meant Alan Kempster.
Alan Kempster, yeah. Alan Campbell's next.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Highly commended again. Tracy Ross, Sunshine on Loch Tulla. Robert Walk, Old Mill. And Clive Watkins, Golf Boss. In third place, Pete Haywood, Ode to Autumn. In second place was Great Langdale, Kevin Thorne. And in first place, After the Storm, Kevin Thorne. Thank you very much, everybody. Roy, can I let you bring the night to the end?
Yes. Lorna, Ruth.
I could get us mixed up this excuse for everyone else.
It even says your name right on the screen now. It started off saying Lorna, but it says Ruth now, so that's I shouldn't be able to get you mixed up.
You've been told off enough.
I know. Right, Ruth. Thank you very much for that. That was you had a lot of images to get through. I know I asked for less than 100, and you had over 100 tonight. I know just how difficult that is to do, but you still managed to get through everybody's images and give a concise and insightful reading, if you like, of each of the images for everybody. So you cut to the chase very quickly and let us know what was right, what was wrong, what you liked and what you didn't like, and did it in a very fair and even and balanced way and a thoughtful way. You know, so sometimes we get judges that are a little bit too flippant with their comments. Didn't find that at all with you tonight. It was really gentle the way you delivered your critique, and I think we all had a lot to learn there. One thing's for sure is that if we ever have you back to judge again, I don't think anybody will be putting a white border around anything. So we've all learned that lesson. For those of you that
we all do it.
We won't do it next time we have Ruth judging for us. Well, you'll know what to expect if you get that.
I'll know what to expect. I'll just stand up and go, see the white border thing? I'm not moving it.
It's a Garnock Valley thing.
Yeah. Anyway, it was a pleasure to have you, and I know it's your first Zoom judging and one of your first judgings altogether. I think you haven't been doing it for very long, but you would never know that because you come across as a seasoned professional at this. So thank you for your time and effort. I know just how much work goes into this, and it really is appreciated that you did it for us tonight. So thank you, Ruth. Everybody, put your hands together for a big thank you for Ruth tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth.
Oh, thank you so much, guys. I thoroughly enjoyed looking at all your images, and I was surprised at the variety of them, and the quality was really high. I was really impressed with the quality, and I thoroughly enjoyed looking at the images. And I was really excited to see the Iceland one. I think, oh yeah, some Iceland photos. Desperate to get to Iceland Roll On 2022.
Excellent. Well, thank you again. Safe journey home.
Okay, John, you'll be through to the kitchen to make another cup of coffee, but thank you so much.
Burnt it. Thank you very much. And I look forward to see you a week on Thursday to return the favour for air.
Okay,
so long as I win, Clive.
Oh,
okay?
well, I don't know about that, Ruth.
As long as I don't get a total bee sting, I'll be fine.
You know me, I wouldn't do that.
No, you wouldn't, Clive. Okay. Thank you so much for being so kind to me, guys. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Right. There you go.
Everyone happy?
Nobody's
Hilarious.
Nobody's ever happy, are they?
Where's me razor?
Dear. We get a chance to go through them all next week. That's what we're doing next week, isn't it, Kevin?
Yeah.
Yes, next week.
Yeah. So you'll get a chance to go through and share your ideas and comments on what you thought of the judging and what you thought of each other's images. We'll do that then. We won't go through it tonight. It's getting late already.
I must say I am well impressed with all the newer members who have got good positions in all these three set subjects. Absolutely fantastic work for all of you. Really pleased.
It just shows you put the effort in and you do well.
Yeah.
Can I just ask? Is there a way of checking? It looks as though I only had one image for landscape.
Yeah, hang on a minute, Alan. I've got a list here. Landscape.
No, there was two, Alan. The Cammy Takes a War.
And gold on blue.
Yeah, gold on blue was there.
Yeah. And the other one was
The ice one.
The ice one, yeah.
Yeah, the ice one, yeah, that's your 2L.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Was it?
Alan?
It wasn't what I don't remember seeing it.
It definitely came up.
What? Yeah.
I'll need to have a look and see. I can't remember what it was.
I think it was one of the ones you took at Turnberry with Aaron in the distance.
What's the number?
Gold on blue is
Gold on blue.
26 in the list.
Share it, Alan. You can share it back again.
Number 26, 26 Alan, gold on blue.
Oh,
Guys,
I think
can
I know
just
what.
see-
I don't know. I think it was at Troon. Yeah.
What is it, Al?
Gold on
Just
blue, number
just a
26.
seascape.
Yeah, with Aaron in the background.
Number 26, Alan.
Yeah, but I'm not looking at that
I must-
number. I'm looking at the codes in front of the images, not
I must have been looking away, didn't he?
You missed your own judging, I don't know.
Yeah.
It shows you how much attention. It was when you were asleep, Alan.
Oh, not at all. No.
that one.
Well, we can't see it unless you share it.
Yeah.
Job in Nevada. Guys, can I just see praising Robin Gemmell, who got a third place in his first competition? Excellent.
Yeah, she had a lot to say about that, Alan. She spent quite a long time on that. I don't know what you were doing.
God, I don't know what I was doing. I don't remember seeing it at all.
It definitely came up. She talked a long time about it.
I should start crying, should I?
Go all the way to Canterbury for that.
No, it's Troon.
That's what she said.
That's Troon.
Yeah, that's Battle Spank, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fellas, back,
Yeah. No, she definitely covered it, Alan. You must have just turned away at that point.
I don't know what I
Fell
was doing.
asleep.
You obviously passed out or something during that.
Absolutely.
Fell asleep, Alan.
Yes, well done. Well done, all the beginners. Well done, Robin, Tracy, Ian. Well, Ian's not a beginner anymore, but yeah, you all did very well tonight.
Yeah.
Agnes, you did well as well. Everybody. Have I missed anybody? David Spellman did very well.
Yep.
Excellent. All good.
The only thing I'll say, it wasn't taken in the zoo. The picture of the monkey wasn't taken in the zoo, and it wasn't taken with flash.
No, I know, but you know what happened, David? We processed that, didn't we? We talked through what to do with it,
Yeah.
and that made it look more dramatic.
Well,
so she probably thought,
after you did that, I did it again. That was the second go. The one I sent to you, and I did it again.
good. There you go. Worked. Whatever you did. Well done.
I think that's why the club is coming on so much because the experienced photographers, I mean, Ian Mortimer's monitoring me, Clive, you're monitoring Davey and others, and that's what's bringing the club on. Some of the photos tonight were stunning, and it's all down to the club teaching the so-called beginners and just a wee bit beyond beginners, and that's what the club's all about, and it's brilliant, fantastic.
Yeah, you're right, but it depends on the enthusiasm of the members to actually get out there and do it as well. So the experienced guys can help you as much as they can, but ultimately you've got to get out there and take pictures, and you're doing that.
Well, that's it, definitely, yeah.
You know, keep it up.
Yes, all well done. And well done, Robin.
Look.
So who got the street trophy? Who won that one? Oh, Bob. Yeah, well done, Bob.
Yeah, okay, so
Kevin made almost a clean sweep of landscape, and I got the nature this year, which is I'm very happy because that's the first time I've got anywhere near getting near the nature before. So
was that the mushrooms with the
snail?
Fabulous image.
Brilliant, really good.
Yeah.
So the lastminute.com on that because I didn't have very much to put in. So, but good.
There was another mushroom one as well, wasn't there? 3 mushrooms.
Yeah, that was Debbie's, I think.
That's fabulous. That was. I loved that. Well done.
Hey folks, I'll have to go just now.
Yes. We're going to do this next week anyway. So.
See you later.
Cheers. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Bye.
Bye, folks.
I'm off as well. So have a good night, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, Ian. Bye.
I'll give you a ring tomorrow. Yeah. Okay.
Bye,
Good night, all.
Be safe.
See you later.
Bye.
Well, since there's no cake, I'm leaving too. All right. We'll catch you later.
You've got to bring the cake, Shane.
looking forward to seeing what you put next week.
See you later.
Bye.
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 Thanks.